When you think of the most dominant guys to ever play in the NBA, who comes to your mind? Jordan, Kobe, LeBron. These guys were and are very dominant in their times, and there's many others that you can list as well. Magic, Kareem, Shaq, etc. But one guy, in my opinion, who gets overlooked, especially among the younger generation, is Kevin Garnett. Maybe it's just me, but it seems like people have forgotten just how good KG was at his time. And when I see tweets like this, it just makes me believe that even more. Kevin Garnett was one of the most dominant players to ever play the game. The stuff he was doing at the time was never seen before, and the impact he had on the game of basketball as a whole was huge. Today I'm going to talk about Kevin Garnett and why I believe he is so underrated and underappreciated. The impact that he has had on the game and on one franchise makes him so great, and his incredible attitude towards the modern game is more reason to appreciate him. Hopefully with this video you can learn more about Kevin Garnett and why the man they call the big ticket deserves more love. Before we get started, I just want to mention that if you are watching this video, there is a very good chance that you aren't even subscribed to the channel. So if you haven't already, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss an upload. Also, if you enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like. That makes a big difference in helping this channel grow. With that being said, let's talk about the big ticket. When Kevin Garnett stepped on the floor, he did things that were inconceivable back then. He did things that no one had ever seen before. You had a 6'11" power forward bringing the ball down the floor and initiating the offense. That was unthinkable back then. And to see it in Kevin Garnett and for him to do it so well was unbelievable to watch. In his first 12 years in the NBA when he played with the Minnesota Timberwolves, he averaged 4.5 assists, which at his position was insane. These numbers were unheard of for a guy at his size and his position. And if you want to look more at just how great his numbers were, especially when it comes to playmaking, just look at his MVP season. During that season in 2003 and 2004, he put up 24.2 points, 13.9 rebounds, 5 assists, 1.5 steals, and 2.2 blocks. Those were unbelievable numbers for a big man in the league, and for him to do everything that he did so dominantly, it was unreal to watch. Kevin Garnett laid the groundwork for big men today and the way that they play. So when you think of guys like Nikola Jokic or Bam Adebayo and you see the way that they play and you see how great of playmakers they are, you can thank Kevin Garnett for that. He did the unthinkable at the time, so to now see guys replicating his game and replicating his play style, it's incredible to watch, and it just shows his influence in the game. And I'm just talking about his offense. His defense was on another level. His intensity on defense as a whole, no matter where he played and no matter what the situation was, one of the most entertaining parts of his career. For him to be 6'11" and so quick and so long, and for him to be able to shot block so easily and read the passing lane so easily to steal, it was part of what made him so great. I can think of so many highlights and so many moments on YouTube that you can look up where you're late in the game and Kevin Garnett makes a big steal or a big block to win the game. There are so many highlights like that. I mean, in his first year in Boston in 2008, he won the Defensive Player of the Year. That impact was incredible. And it wasn't just him doing so well individually, he was helping the team do well defensively too. During that same 2008 season with the Celtics, that team allowed only 98 points per 100 possessions, which was first in the league at the time. The Celtics were the top 3 in defensive efficiency in 4 of the 6 years that Kevin Garnett was in Boston. And they were in the top 5 times, and they never fell below 7th. That just goes to show that not only was he great individually, he made his team better too, which is a rare thing to see at that time. His intensity, his energy, his heart, his passion was what made him so dominant on defense and on offense as well. It's not easy to play in the league for a long time, especially to be able to stay healthy while doing it, but Kevin Garnett was able to do that. He played 21 years in the NBA, and the longevity that he had was crazy to think about at the time. I mean, let's put this into perspective, right? He came out of high school into the league, so that obviously not a lot of guys do that anymore, but for him to do it just shows how great he was. And if you wanted to put into more perspective just how great his longevity was, let's think about this. The first time that he was an All-Star was in 1997. He was 20 years old. His last All-Star appearance was in 2013, and he was 36. That is the 4th most all-time in All-Star selections, trailing only Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Kobe Bryant, and LeBron James. In his 13th season at 31 years old, he was able to help turn around the Boston Celtics from being one of the worst teams in the league at 24-58 to 66-16, and they won the championship that year. And let's remember, the Boston Celtics at that time were in a very bad position because they had been basically irrelevant since Larry Bird left. So for him to come into Boston and in that same year win the championship just shows how valuable of a guy he was. And during that long career, he had so many unique accomplishments too, which made him stand out among the rest. He's tied for the most first-team all-defense selections with 9, tied with Michael Jordan, Gary Payton, and Kobe Bryant. He's one of only 7 guys to have at least 15 All-Star selections. He is 4th all-time in minutes played during a career. And this stat blew my mind when I first found out. Since 1973, Kevin Garnett is 1st in total defensive rebounds. In the span of almost 50 years, Kevin Garnett has the most defensive rebounds. That is unbelievable, and it just goes to show how great he was and how long he was great for. One thing about Kevin Garnett that needs to get more appreciation for me is the fact that he's just so iconic and that he basically is the face of a franchise and he made them relevant. Since their inception, the Minnesota Timberwolves had never made the playoffs until Kevin Garnett was drafted in '96, and they had made the playoffs from 1997 to 2004. Again, that just shows how valuable of a player he was for that team. And since that season in 2004, the Timberwolves have only made the playoffs one time after that, in 2018. So if you want to talk about the face of a franchise in terms of like the all-time scale, Kevin Garnett is that for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And that's how he got the name the Big Ticket. He was the biggest reason that people in Minnesota bought tickets to watch Timberwolves games, because the team was not that relevant until he came. So when people did go to the games, it was to watch him. The people in Minnesota showed so much love to Kevin Garnett while he was there that Kevin Garnett even made a return in the last couple of years of his career. And most recently, Kevin Garnett tried to buy the team. So, I mean, it's just crazy to think about. Unfortunately, that didn't work out, and the bad blood between the current owner and Kevin Garnett still stands after all these years. But it does go to show that Kevin Garnett has so much loyalty and so much love for the people of Minnesota, since they showed so much love to him when he first came into the league. That just shows the kind of influence and impact he had on one franchise and to one fan base. And guys like that in this league are hard to come by, so to have it in him is just one more reason to love him. Now, this has nothing to do with his game specifically, but it just goes to show how great of a person he is. When you think of guys who used to play in the league and you ask them how they feel about today's game, you'll get the same cookie cutter answers and the same boomer mentality answers. Oh, the game's weak, it's not physical anymore, everyone shoots threes now, everyone's buddy now, there's no real enemies, everyone doesn't hate each other all the time. That's the mentality that you get from a lot of old guys when they talk about today's game. I mean, hell, Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley get paid millions of dollars to do that every week on TNT. Kevin Garnett, though, he does the complete opposite of what those guys do. When the New York Times did an interview with Kevin Garnett, they asked him about how he felt about the modern game, and he straight up said that he doesn't think the guys from 20 years ago could play today. And that's a very bold but interesting statement to come from a guy who played in the 90s, the early 2000s, where he was at his best. These are the two quotes that stood out to me the most from that interview. I want you to get on a court, sprint corner to corner, stop on a dime, and shoot a 3. And I want you to do 10 of those, and I want you to focus on how tired you are, because these players do that for 48 minutes. I don't know if even the guards from 20 or 30 years ago could play in this time right here. It's creative, it's competitive, it's saucy. You will get dropped. A dude will cross you over and break your ACL these days. The game is in a great place. That is so important to hear from a guy like Kevin Garnett, because it shows that not all the old guys just hate the game like Shaq and Charles do all the time. You still have guys like Kevin Garnett who are able to show how great they were at the time, but still appreciate how guys are playing today. Kevin Garnett has that Allen Iverson mentality where he spends no time shitting on the product and shitting on the game and its young players. He just wants to spend his time appreciating the game and its guys. And having guys like that is so important, and it's a shame that they don't have the platform like Shaq and Charles do. Having guys like that show love for your product is so important, so I hope that Kevin Garnett continues to use his platform to show love like he does. I know he had that show for a couple of years on TNT, but I'm sure the ratings were just not there. But still, having a guy like that show love to the game is so important, so I hope he does it more. So to basically sum it all up, Kevin Garnett deserves a lot more love, especially among these younger guys, and I hope that they learn more about what he did, the impact he had on the game, and I just hope that more people learn to appreciate him for what he did on the court and the love that he shows for the current game off the court. And that's going to wrap up the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy, please be sure to leave a like and comment down below what you think about Kevin Garnett and his career. Do you think that he's underrated? Do you think that he's underappreciated? Feel free to let me know in the comments. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. And if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss an upload. Thank you guys as always for your continuous support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.